This is a supplemental lesson I really need to go through so that everyone understands how we can change equations. We talked about it in 7th grade, or at least you did. So we know that if I have an equation that looks like this, 2x plus 2y equals 4, I want to change that so that y is all by itself and that it equals something. So the first thing I need to do is I need to look at the things that I need to change. Well, we know that we can get rid of that simply by subtracting it. But what I want you to remember is we always want to subtract it from both sides. Whatever it is, I want to subtract it from both sides. So this is just a number. I'm going to subtract it from both sides. That leaves me 2y's equals a negative 2x plus a 4. I could have rewritten this 4 minus 2x and been just as good. But we're just using this as an example. So the next thing that I need to get rid of is I need to get rid of this 2. But what I want you to notice is that this 2 is not just adding to the y, it's actually like they're married together. So these two I have to use something a little bit stronger, and in order to do that, what I need to do is I need to divide these two. So I'm going to take the 2 and divide it by a 2. 2 divided by 2 happens to be 1. What do you notice down here? There's 1y. So I now have to, because I divided this number, I have to divide this number, and I have to divide this number. So negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1x, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this is exactly the same as this equation. I'm going to show you one more as an example. This is what you're going to a lot of times you're going to have to do in order to create these. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, what if I had 7 plus 2y equals 4x? Well, I need to do the same thing. I want it to look like this when I finish with y all by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this. Well, that's a positive 7, so we add its negative. We subtract a 7 here. That leaves me 2y equals 4x's minus 7. Continuing down the last step, I know that those are tied together, so I have to divide them. So I divide by 2, and I divide by 2. So I get, in this case, 1y equals 2x minus 7 over 2. And go ahead and leave that as a fraction from now on. It's not a big deal. We're not going to utilize a lot of it. We can kind of compare it when we see things, but that's all we have to do. Let's do one more where it's just a little bit different. What if I had 4 minus 2y equals 2x? Well, nothing really has changed. I still want to get a y here, but what I want to make sure is it has to be a positive y. If you notice, this is a negative, so there's a problem with that. But we're going to start here again. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Subtract 4 from both sides. I get negative 2y equals 2x minus 4. Once again, they're tied together. So when I divide one number, I have to divide all the numbers. So what I draw that line so I remember what I do to one side, I do to the other. And because I'm dividing one number, I have to divide that number, and I have to divide that number. So now I get 1y. Negative 2 divided by 2 is positive 1. 2 divided by negative 2 is a negative x. And negative 4 divided negative 2 is a positive 2. Negative divided by negative is always a positive. So that's how we're going to use this. And we need to get really good at this as we go through.